do justice of an introduction to a very good friend of mine, and that's Brad Hughes. About a month ago, Matthew and Paula and Ronnie and I were sitting around trying to decide who would introduce each other in this evening. And it fell to me, when Matthew and I left that meeting, we decided that since I knew Brad a little longer, that I'd get to introduce Brad. I went home and I told my wife, I said, guess what? I get to introduce Brad at the Hall of Fame introduction. She said, that's great. I said, no, I'm really excited about it. She said, wait a minute, now you sound a little giddy. I said, I don't know about giddy, but I'm excited. She said, just remember, Gordon, this is an introduction, not a roast. We'll see about that, Brad.
I'll get you back.
I met Brad. First and foremost, let me thank and recognize his wife, Pam, and son, Kent's here, his other son, Colin, and his daughter-in-law, Jordan, couldn't make it tonight there in Mississippi. And I say that because all of our board members in the room, once you join a Boys and Girls Club board, your family's committed, right, to the Boys and Girls Club movement. And the sacrifice that they make as your spouse, as your siblings, as your children, the sacrifices that you make is a family affair. The sweat equity, the time and the resources, and the efforts that you put forward. So to all the families out here, thank you very much. I met Brad 24 years ago, and early on in his tenure, I remember him calling me one morning going, Gordon, I woke up last night about 3 o'clock, and I started making notes about our upcoming capital campaign. Touchdown. I knew we had Brad Hughes. And for 24 years, we kept making those calls back and forth. Not one time have I ever picked up the phone and called Brad Hughes, and he didn't say, how can I help? What can I do? And I'm talking about capital campaigns, or if we had a maintenance issue at one of our clubs. That's Brad Hughes. I've known him a long time, and he's never disappointed. We've got about half of our board here tonight, too, and some of his friends that have joined us, that without Brad's humbling presence on our board, his motivation, and Wyatt, thank you for the kind comments, Mr. Rollins, earlier, but without his efforts, not just in Bartow County, but in our state, in our region, in our country, tens of thousands of young people would not have been served. I know that sounds like a lot of folks, but if you start thinking about the trickle-out effect, think about the folks in each one of our towns. Think about the kids that walk through that club. And Mr. Rollins summed it up perfectly when he talked about, that first day when you open the Boys and Girls Club, sometimes you just don't know. You don't know who's going to show up. But it's amazing how every one of these communities, usually most of our clubs are at capacity, and there's a little boy or a girl walks up there with that lunch bag that first day, and you know what? They belong to their Boys and Girls Club, thanks to the efforts of the folks in this room. The other inductees, the Brad Hughes, and all of our other volunteers and family members here. There's two things. I've got the formal introduction, Paula, I promise. I'm getting on the script. She's panicking. There's two things I want to point out there. Is Brad's efforts in the area council. He's been our liaison and for, Ronnie, 24 years now. I don't think he's missed a meeting. And more importantly, when he went back to our organization, the advocacy and the passion he had for the area council and the kids that we were serving, and I think for 24 years now, we've had a minimum of 6, 7, 8 board members attend each and every area council. Secondly, and Wyatt touched on it earlier, the outreach efforts. I've been fortunate in my role in Boys and Girls Clubs as a consultant, a field consultant, to do some legwork to hopefully expose new communities or potentially new communities to the Boys and Girls Club mission. And Canton, Cedartown, Jasper with Mr. Russell, Dalton, Mr. Rollins, and one person has been a driving force behind that, allowing me to do that and spend ample time, and often going with me, and that's Brad Hughes. Brad is concerned with kids in Bartow County, but that's just scratching the surface. Brad always mandated we do what was best for kids in this state, in this nation, and in this movement. First and foremost, that's Brad Hughes. Now I'll read his formal introduction. How about that? Brad Hughes is a lifelong resident of Cartersville in Bartow County. He and his wife Pam, I mentioned earlier, proud parents of 2 sons, Colin and Kent, dedicated members of Cartersville First Presbyterian Church. He's the purchasing manager at New Riverside Okra Company, where he's been 30 years. His leadership titles at the club, just a few, have included board chairman, vice chair, resource development chairman, strategic planning chairman, area council liaison, and executive committee member, which he still serves to this day. As a matter of fact, he participated in a 3-hour workshop today at the area council in his 24th year of involvement. I'm telling you, from day one to right now, Brad Hughes has remained steadfast. He's been nationally recognized with a national medallion. He's been deemed the Georgia Board Member of the Year. He's also received in 2009 the President's Volunteer Service Award. We mentioned earlier, as a vocal, persistent advocate for organization and movement in all personal, professional, civic, and church endeavors. His vision and continued dedication to the movement has enabled the organization to flourish. Brad remains steadfast in his commitment to Boys and Girls Club mission, always striving to do what's best for the youth of our community, state, and region. I am honored to present Brad Hughes as a Career Achievement Board volunteer to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hall of Fame. Brad, you come forward.
Well, thank you, Gordon. I believe I would have enjoyed the roast a little bit more better than that introduction, but it makes me feel very, very humble. And it's hard to follow that, and it's hard to follow Mr. Mills and some of the other comments that these gentlemen have made, which are all true about their dedication to the Boys and Girls Club. I'm very honored. I'm honored that my good friend Gordon presented this to me. I'm honored that, like he mentioned, our other board members are here tonight, Matthew including, and they do just as much work as I do. And we're blessed in Bartow County to have a great staff, a great club, and a great community. And I'm blessed in many ways. And of course, as Gordon mentioned, my family, they're my greatest blessing. My oldest son Kent's with us tonight, and he's volunteered to help on our largest special event for the past few years. I'm very proud of that. But I'm also especially blessed, like Gordon said, with my wife. She retired last year with 38 years of teaching, and in her career she's touched a lot more kids in a more positive way than I ever can. So I appreciate everything, and good night. Thanks.